Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today is Bill Wiley. Bill is our delegate in the House District 29, which is a small part of Warren County.
Yeah.
And so we know we have three delegates here. We're lucky we have three of you. So, what they say, maybe we don't have any,
Yeah.
But it's always good to hear. Bill's been here several times and talked to us, and we just finished a session not too long ago, I guess, a few days, and you were he come scooting up here from D.C. today. You were no rest for the weary.
No, I mean, being a citizen, legislative person, you have your day job, so
That's right. You still got to work.
yeah, still got to work. I got the family and being a delegate, so it's a full slate for me, and I have to be very judicious in my time.
Yeah.
So
Well, we appreciate you coming in because people really kind of like to hear from our elected officials, and it's a good way to do it.
Sure.
So what kind of is a highlight of our last session?
Well, the last session for me was challenging to say the very least. It was virtual, and for it not to be in person for somebody coming in new, it was a tremendous learning curve for me. As I tell a lot of people, I probably spent the first half learning just the procedure. We have on a local level, we have our parliamentary procedure is just Robert's rule, but when you go to state, it's the same as federal. It's Jeffersonian, so it's a completely different language, if you will, on the floor, or much less in committee. And then trying to learn how to put a bill in. So I probably spent the first half learning the process, and then the second half learning how to put a bill into play. So not the way you want to go about representing your constituents, because technically you need to know that up front, which I should have learned in person with a lot of my fellow caucus
Well, at
members.
least in person they said, Bill, come this way. And they would have held your hand and walked you through it, but it's difficult on Zoom.
Yeah, I did, as I promised the constituents, I did go down to Richmond, and I spent probably 3 nights a week there. Not many of us did, but fortunately, for me, I got a chance to visit some of the caucus members that were there in our office building, the local districts that were working, so that I could bounce ideas and question them about topics when I was there. So that was beneficial for me. But in terms of talking to the other side, the Democrats, and how we would put bills together, there was none of that conversation, unfortunately, because it was virtual, and I was just clamoring, trying to figure out how to do it on our side of the fence first.
Right, sure.
Just really challenging on that end.
Well, and next year of course, now it's time for being election again.
Yeah, so I'm filling a midterm position from last year, from Chris Collins' absence. He moved on to being a judge, and now I'm running again this year. And certainly, it's like, gee, I just did this 6 months ago or 5 months ago. But fortunately, it's not like I dropped the ball and I got to start over again.
Sure.
It's very fresh in my mind. Things are moving along great. We look forward to the election, which process starts tomorrow. So we hope people can come out and vote early, vote often, is what I say. Please come out and vote.
Yeah, we always used to say that, but now we're careful
No,
when
you
we
got to
say
be careful, right? Yeah, I'm being funny, but we want people to come out and vote now, to make sure that people don't forget to vote or have an issue. I couldn't make it because I had XYZ on November 2nd.
And that happens at the last minute. Yeah,
it does. So we want people to go ahead and vote now, get it knocked out, and we look forward to winning and moving forward and taking on this next session, so I can really get my hands dirty and get to work. So
right. Yeah, there's a lot of new laws that we had in July 1st. Quite a bit, like 600 new thing. I think that's kind of like, really, that much stuff happens, and I guess it does.
It does.
And we've had a lot of not strange, but legalization of, well, they call it that, of one day it's a drug, you're going to jail, and the next day it's okay. Those are kind of hard things to get your head wrapped around. Yeah,
so to answer your first comment about the amount of bills, it's amazing. There are thousands of bills that come into play in the beginning. Fortunately, the Madam Chair, she went ahead and limited it. Not fortunately, I should say, but just based on the timeline, we really didn't have a choice but to limit the amount of bills to go into play, because we just didn't have the time. Because at first it was 30 days, and then it got extended to 45. So that was challenging, but you really go through a serious vetting process when you're going through subcommittees and committees to go through these bills. And then it gets narrowed down to that short list of bills that make the cut, if you will, going over to cross over to Senate. And then that has to go through a review, and then maybe some more changes and whatnot before it goes to the governor. So there's a lot of work that goes on there. to make bills actually get processed and put through the pipeline. In terms of the bills that were put into play, yeah, a lot of the marijuana bill really disappointed me from the collective bargaining side at the end. Not only was it what we thought is really not a thorough way of vetting this bill and making sure that the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, there was a lot of loose ends that just didn't get cleaned up. But really the one that struck me was the collective bargaining piece at the end. There was a lot of language in there about moving forward with this, moving into a business and helping out with, and certainly it'll be a great business opportunity for the state. We certainly I think all of us agree with that from a revenue standpoint. But when you're bringing in collective bargaining and talking about unions moving into a right to work state is very concerning for myself and should be concerning for everybody in this area. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was one of the bills that was really contentious. Certainly the death penalty is very contentious. We had, which Jason Mieres, who's running for AG, did a very good job on the floor. If anybody gets a chance to go watch that on YouTube, I would highly advise constituents to watch it. It's very moving in terms of his floor speech. We had other bills that, a lot moving to affect the police, and it had really had a major impact to their workforce. I don't know how many calls I get on a daily basis that they just don't have manpower, and they're fighting not only with that situation, but they're fighting for helping out with the mental health patients. They've got to watch over these patients in the hospital when in reality they should be out doing their job out in the streets and helping the citizens. So that really was an issue. And then, we had other issues with the taxation process with some of the businesses and the structure of how certain things were done. So, we kind of want to bring back, from a Republican standpoint, we want to bring back some normalcy. We felt a lot of it was just kind of going off in a kind of a way that we're very concerned with where the Commonwealth is going.
A lot of spending.
Yeah.
They think they have a surplus, but just because you have a surplus doesn't mean and that might not even be a real surplus. So that's the other thing. You can make accounting do anything you want.
Sure. But
as soon as they have a surplus, they seem like they want to spend. I think that's everybody, but we'll...
Well, certainly our area could certainly use the money. And, one thing that I found, if I may, and I brought this up with our leader, Todd Gilbert, I said it's almost like we have an urban versus rural fight. And that's what it is, because if you look at the map, all the Democrats that are elected are in the urban areas, and then the Republicans are mostly in the rural areas, so to speak. So we want what we want, and they want what they want in their neck of the woods. Well, it's this dichotomy of challenges that we have where, they get a lot of things that benefit the urban environment, but at the same time it could affect us negatively from an economic standpoint. I'll give you an example. The solar panel legislation, or the trying to get more energy efficient. Well, for cars, you had to buy. We're now moving to the direction of having to buy electric cars. Well, you think it's great to be environmentally friendly. Don't get us wrong, but when you're mandating it and then you're pushing it downhill, if you will, to the localities, people have a hard time affording a car, electric car. I don't know many people that drive Teslas in our neck of the woods.
Right. And one of the big differences is in the city, you only travel 6 miles.
Yeah.
Here we're going to go 60 miles.
Yeah,
and a lot of these cars don't have much range. I mean, some are getting a couple hundred, but until you can drive all day, a 10-hour drive, 350 miles, that's what the AAA says is a full day's drive, and charge it up while you sleep and be sure it's going to go another 350 or more. I think it's going to be a hard push.
Yeah, so there's economies there that we have to kind of work through. It's going to take a little while, certainly. I think those programs will finally come into play, but at the end of the day, we're the guys that are going to be affected more, I think.
Right, it's the ones in the rural.
From a location.
Speaking of which, rural broadband, that's a hot topic right now, and we're, especially this last year with the schools being pretty much virtual, they found the weak link in our rural areas, not just here in our county, but statewide.
Yeah. So that is actually a bipartisan issue. I served on that. One of the committees I serve on is Communications Technology Innovation. And so fortunately, in our committee meetings and on the floor, we were all together trying to make sure broadband is being brought to not only people in the cities or whoever, but it's being brought out to the rural areas. And COVID really shined that issue in terms of what we need now. And I think that's moving forward slowly. There's a lot of money that not only has been put into play from the state, but from the feds. It just came down from what we just enacted in special session. But we're really pushing hard to make sure that people get broadband, specifically the kids. When they're locked at home and they got to get connectivity, that's just something that is unacceptable. We need to make sure we have that.
Well, the whole internet world has changed our whole culture, from entertainment, the music, the television, the schools, the store program. I mean, everything revolves around. Our whole business here has completely changed due to the internet. It's just changed everything.
It has, and we need to kind of get with that. I think it's technology is where it's going. My kids, they do more with the internet and use of computers and software that's way advanced. They tell me how to fix things now.
Sure. That's what they always say when something doesn't work. You got a grade school kid that can help you.
Yeah. So they're the ones that are smarter than us. That's always when kids are smart.
They've grown up with that's all they had. I've seen little kids that can't even read and write tell their mom, "Mommy, that's not how you do it. You got to push this button." They know how to get that Disney Channel on their tablet.
Right. It works. So.
Oh, it's great. But there's a lot of things going on. One of the things, of course, we've always talked about the Second Amendment issues that have been hitting our state. There's a big push for this climate change, a lot of abortion. Mm-hmm. They're writing and spending a lot of time, Texas, here, A.G. Herring is, filing suit, against things. And just wondering, what the direction of our state is going to go. People say, we don't want to be another New York or California. Yeah. And it's just a strange. That brings up something here. Everybody was thinking California might flip over to red, and
I don't think it's going to
3-1 stayed blue. Yeah. I mean, so you never know until the votes are counted.
Well, I think right now we're in a fortunate position where I think the pendulum has kind of swung too far to the left, where a lot of the laws that are being put into play in the past are now starting to really have effect on the citizens and the businesses, and I think that people are really starting to realize that, this is not where we want to go with our Commonwealth. And I think that, Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin is speaking in great volumes about that issue specifically. I met with him here in Front Row for the first time, and before he went in to speak, I introduced him to the people here, and I asked him. I said, my first question was, why are you leaving your business? Sounds like you were in a very successful business. And he was very, very straightforward with me, and he says, I'm very passionate about our Commonwealth, and we've lost the touch and the direction of our Commonwealth that we've all remembered and known for centuries. And so he's very passionate about it, and it's spot on to what you just were commenting about some of the principles and the foundation of our Constitution, as well as what we believe in as true citizens of the United States, as well as the Commonwealth. So we need to kind of get back to those roots, get back to a sense of normalcy, and just kind of move forward to benefit the constituent. And I think that's kind of taking the wrong direction.
Well, you mentioned that word normalcy. When do you think that's going to happen with do you think we're going to see a state mask mandate and a vaccine mandate going forward? I mean, everybody said, what happened to HIPAA laws? All of a sudden, show your card. When they first said, well, no one can make you show your card. And now they want you to show your card. And I seen where China just found the Homeland Security just raided some China shipment of 30 million vaccine, fraudulent vaccine cards. So what's the world coming? I mean, what do you think?
So the mask situation is, I certainly disagree with the president's mandates. President of the United States, Biden. I think this is a very challenging situation, and so we want to be pro-business, and we want to make sure the businesses are doing well. I think that's one of our foundations as Republicans, and so the challenge of telling a business, hey, you need to not mandate masks or not, I think that's a touchy situation with businesses. We need to let them make their own decisions, but at the same time, we need to protect the individual in terms of their rights, in terms of whether they want to take the vaccine or not, and certainly that's completely of their decision. And so that's the tug of war there with people, and I've had conversations with people about saying they're going to not be allowed to work for their company anymore because they're mandating it, and I just tell them, look, you're probably going to have to find another place that will employ you. That's that challenge we have right now in this terrible pandemic, but mandating it, I don't think is the right way to go. I think giving guidance, I think at the end of the day, I think from what we've experienced last year, and to getting kids to just wear the mask, and people, businesses saying we'll do the mask thing, but don't limit our business in terms of operations. Let us stay open. At the same time, we want our kids to go back to school. And I think if we can have those two things happen, wear the mask, whatever it may be, we've got to get back to just this sense of normalcy. I keep going back to that, but it's that path, because if you look at our SOL scores last year, they were abysmal. And that is all attributable to the kids being home. My oldest boy had that, he was a good example of it in the second semester, just completely went off the charts with his grades. I think a lot of kids need that structure and they need that environment, socialization and everything, and activities. But at the same time, for businesses, they've got to survive and they've got to be able to operate. So it's just not easy in terms of some of these decision making with COVID. I completely get it, but I think when the government comes in and just says you will do this, that makes it very difficult.
And the American way has always been about choice.
Sure.
I always tell you, your right's in at the end of your nose, and and so to try to put my feelings onto you and you onto mine, I don't think that's how we formed this country, wasn't it?
That's right. So there's a balance there, and and we need to.
The king come down and said you're going to do something, and no, we're not.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, tomorrow is Constitution Day, and that's another vital.
I hope people keep that in mind when they go to the voting booth.
Think about that. I think we were talking earlier with Bill Hammock and Vicky about tomorrow. He's putting on the event at the Wayside Inn.
Oh, good.
And it's one of those documents. We all know about the Declaration of Independence, but that was just the precursor of the Constitution. Is really the important document that just forms our country. I think that's what everything's based upon.
That's exactly right.
And we just we forgot it. Yeah. And I think that I remember I used to do some work with the American Trial Lawyers Association, and they're considered very liberal. But a speaker came in, one of them, he says, lawyers are the most conservative people that there are. And you could hear a pin drop in the audience. Sure. You can imagine. And his answer was, we say we defend the Constitution, so how much more conservative can you be? If you defend the Constitution, you're a conservative.
Right.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, makes them probably wake up about it.
But I thought that was a good point. We got to, and really, without it, we wouldn't have our country or anything else. So
you're exactly right. And I think that, a lot of our constituents in the 29th district, and for the most part, and just outside, in the 3 districts that service this area, feel the same way. I think that our base over here completely on that same line of thinking. And so I constantly get calls about that. I constantly get calls about, protect my freedoms. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to go out and to try to make sure that the things that our constituents value, we can take it down to Richmond and make sure that they're represented, and then we get the laws passed accordingly.
Well, that was one of my questions I was going to ask you. You talked about your constituents. So now, is it kind of like, you're kind of like our congressman that we think about. We have a problem with the feds, we call Ben Klein. So when we have a problem with Richmond, we're supposed to call Bill Wiley?
Correct.
Or Todd Gilbert? Or Michael Weber?
Yeah, well, any of us for that matter. If you're not in our district, certainly I've actually had cross-district people call me and then I
we don't even know what our district is.
But it depends on where you live, right? So, but certainly that's the path. And, we've got email, we have a website, we've got a phone number. You can go to just General Assembly and then my name on there. You'll find me all over the internet.
So it's okay for people to reach out.
Please, I encourage that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my aide, we work together on getting this information, and then depending on the complexity of the question, we'll research
direct people to the right.
Yeah, and what we try to do is we try to delegate, believe it or not, we try to delegate to departments, whether it's a DMV related matter or Virginia Employment Commission matter, which has been a major issue in terms of the bureaucracy and all the craziness that we've been dealing with there. But just in terms of direction, tell people, hey, this is where we can place you, and then from there we make sure that they're taken care of, and if there's any other issues, to let us know. So.
Well, you mentioned the DMV and employment. It kind of goes back to right now. People don't want to work, it seems like. Everybody has got hiring out, and our state agencies are like the worst ones. I mean, they've set this precedence. Well, we don't have to come to work. We're going to make an appointment or do online, and 6 months from now, maybe we'll see you. And all of a sudden, that's kind of trickled down. Yeah. Now it's affecting the local McDonald's. They don't open till 8 o'clock and close at 4 o'clock because they don't have any help. How is that affecting our economy?
It really is. And so COVID really kind of changed the economic dynamics of our country. And it's still kind of going through its change, and we're not sure how that's going to come out. But I think they're calling it the general reassessment, whatever that means.
Always have an acronym.
Yeah, there's an acronym, like the last Great Recession, but we hope it's not going to be a recession. But there's a dynamic change there in terms of people's behavior and how they shop and how they do business and the day-to-day life. And so some of those labor positions are going to have a hard time getting filled, and others are going to go. And there was more people that came out to start businesses than ever in history. Just to give you an idea. Well, with that, right, they're going to have a hard time hiring people. So there's a change right now, and we have also supply chain issues. There's all kinds of dynamics going on right now. It needs to take a little while to shake out, but I think that the government needs to stop paying people to stay. We need to get people out of the house, get them back to work. We need to kind of get them weaned off the COVID assistance, which that was needed. I get it, but we need to get people back to work. Every service industry that we know needs people. I just went by a restaurant the other day to get food for my family, and they were closed due to no staff. They're not making money, and I don't get to enjoy their food, right? So
right. The local movie theater was closed one night because he didn't have a staff.
Yeah, and so we need to kind of figure out ways to get people back to doing work and like this normalcy thing. I think that's very challenging right now, but stop paying them to stay home. Let's get them back to work.
Yeah. Well, Bill, it's always good to have you come in and talk to us, and we want to encourage people to reach out to you, because if you have an issue or a good or bad, I mean, you don't mind hearing some good things. I mean, that
you know what, that always helps. But yeah, thank you. And it actually makes me feel good when somebody says, "Hey, I need something done," and we do it, and they respond, "Thank you, I got my question answered. Thank you for your help."
So you can reach out to his office. We'll put your website and all your information below the video, and they can do that. But again, reach out to Bill, reach out to your congressman and to all your elected officials. Please. I think basically most people that run for office are doing it because they want to help.
Correct.
And I think they all have a deep concern. There's always a few bad apples and everything, but I think when we look at a majority, they're there to help us. And when you all heard the phrase, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, it's really true. Yeah. And we laugh because, it hasn't always been true.
We're here to serve.
But people are here to serve, and I think that's, we just need to take advantage of it. A lot of people complain, but they don't take that extra, pick up the phone and call.
Or email.
Or do something, on your new broadband service.
That's right. Coming to you soon.
Coming to you soon. And there is the county's got an initiative going with Rappahannock Electric to get some stuff in the South. Like you said, a lot of state money coming to that. So a lot of good things are coming.
Yes, sir.
And I think both sides of the aisle really want to have what's best for their constituents. It's just how to get there.
That's correct.
And you're right. When you're not face to face, it's hard to negotiate and communicate and get things done when you're trying to do it over Zoom. That just doesn't. Yes, you can do some things, but it's just not the same. You can talk to your kids, but other stuff you really need to look eyeball to eyeball.
That's correct.
You have that anonymity of the keyboard, and people will do things this way where they wouldn't dare say it to your face.
That's
right?
Correct.
I'm sure you noticed
with
that.
the mute button, right?
Yes. Again, Bill, thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.